Hey everybody, welcome to the Code with Jason Meetup, America, as I'm now calling it, because now I have the America Meetup and the Europe Meetup. Um, Tonight I'm going to do a live coding demonstration where I show how to add tests retroactively to an existing application that doesn't have any tests. Before we start, I want to mention, I think I mentioned this last time, I have a conference coming up. March 2024. The conference is called Sin City Ruby. You can go to the sincityruby.com to see the details about the conference. As you probably inferred, it's going to be in Las Vegas. So yeah, sincityruby.com. You can put in your email to get notified when tickets go on sale. It might be a tight squeeze if you're watching this online, dear viewer, because tickets go on sale July 17th. They'll be on sale July 17th through 21st. And then I'm taking the tickets off the market. I'm only selling 100 tickets. I'm limiting it to just 100 attendees. So when we get to the end of that week, or when all 100 tickets sell out, whichever comes first is when sales end. But again, you can go to sincityruby.com to get on that waiting list. Anyway, that's my plug for my upcoming conference. I hope some of you guys here consider going. It'd be great to meet you in person. Okay, so we're talking about GitHub Copilot, Tab 9, ChatGPT, all that stuff. Mike, what is it that you were saying a minute ago?
Uh,
I was
yeah.
just oh, sorry, wrong
Oh,
mic. Other
Mhm.
mic. Go.
yeah. Gitkraken just like a few weeks ago released hooking your GPT or your Open AI key to the client and having it generate Git commit messages for you.
That's pretty cool. I've done that before manually. And I thought, there's no reason why somebody couldn't create some kind of plugin or something that does this for you automatically. Sounds like somebody has done that.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's a little when you go to make your commit, there's just a little button, you click on it, and then it goes off and generates it.
Nice. Yeah, I
So,
find it does
yeah.
pretty good with those. Yeah, go ahead,
Mike,
Will.
when it does that, I find when I write a commit message, I have to really be conscious to write the the why versus the what. 'Cause I don't want to repeat what I did in my code. I'm wondering how the the AI knows why. Is it pretty good at answering the why question versus what you did?
No, you can get better commits out of like you can tell it not to mention files or like refer to details about the code, and it will give you more of a feature response. Um, but no, it really doesn't get into the why. So usually I find it's a good feature to just add the detail that I'm too lazy to put in. Like I'm pretty good at answering the why.
Is the why even appropriate for a commit message? Is I guess a philosophical question, but usually there's a work ticketing system or something that you're already linking to that gives a lot of details about the why. I'm always like, if someone's looking back through this Git log in the future, what do they want to know? And most often they'll want to know, in summary, what was changed, maybe a brief mention of why, but also almost as important, what related files were changed to kind of get a view of the whole change.
Yeah, that brings up a great point, Mike. I wish more people, when writing commit messages and deciding like the scope of their commits and stuff like that, would give thought to the archaeologists of the future who will have to go back into the past and work with those past commits.
For sure,
Um,
because someday
yeah,
that might be me,
exactly.
and I might be having a bad day, and I'm like, "Who wrote this crap?" And here it was 6 months ago, me.
Right.
So
Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen and get into this live demo. So, one of the questions I get a lot as kind of a testing guy is, how do I add tests to an existing app? And it's almost an unanswerable question because it's just, there's a lot to it. Because partly it depends on where you're coming from. Like, the answer to that question for somebody who's been writing tests for 20 years is a much different answer for somebody who has never written a test before in your life. So that's definitely a factor. But what I'm going to do today is, I'm somebody who's been writing tests for many years, but I wrote this program recently where I allowed myself to be undisciplined and I wrote 0 tests for it. But shockingly, this program turned out to be more complicated than I thought it would. And so now I feel like it's appropriate for me to add some tests before things get out of control. And hopefully I can kind of share some universal principles that you can take away and apply yourself. And I'll give a little bit of background on what this program does. So I have a snail mail newsletter, as most of you guys probably know. I send an actual physical letter every month in the mail to, at this point, about 180, 190 recipients. It has gotten a little bit tedious for me to manually export from WordPress a CSV and then massage that data manually and then upload it to the Avery Label website and carry out like 7 different steps there and export a PDF and then print that. And then if a new person signs up, I have to go through all that again. Or if a chunk of new people sign up, I have to do all that again. It's quite tedious. So I said, why don't I write a program? Because there's probably an API for this WordPress thing. Why don't I write a program that just grabs all that data from the API and also generates the PDF for me? And anybody watching might think, well, this is dumb, Jason. Why don't you just have some service do it? Yeah, I know. There's not a good reason for me not to use a service, probably. But also, I'd have to get him the addresses somehow still. And so I'd still have to do this like step of extracting it from my WordPress site. Anyway, that's what this program does. It hits the WordPress API and then generates a PDF with all the addresses in it. And again, there's 0 tests. So I'm going to start adding some tests. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've given this 0 forethought. And so you're going to see me think about all this in real time. First thing I'm going to do is make sure that I'm in a clean working state, because I always do that before I do any piece of work. So we are. I'm going to use RSpec for this. So I'm going to install RSpec using, well, I'm going to add RSpec to my gem file. Let's see if tab 9 is smart enough to know that I want RSpec. Apparently not. Oh, it added the C for me. How helpful of you, tab 9. But I didn't notice it in time, so I typed it anyway. What a waste. Okay, so I just installed RSpec. I'm going to need a spec directory, I know that. And call me crazy, but I'm going to commit that. Okay, now I know I'm going to need at least 1 test file. My program is called program.rb. It's probably room for improvement there, but we'll come back to that at some point. So I'm just going to call my test programspec.rb. Whoops, and I need to remember that I want to use NeoVim. I think a lot of programmers, and I forgot that I needed to do this. I think a lot of programmers have the idea that what they do needs to be right the first time around. And I think you gain a lot by letting go of that idea that whatever you do the first swing needs to be right. This I know is not right. Program spec, like that's terrible. but I'm going to come back around and do it because I know it'll be easier after I fill in some content in this file than before. Okay, so I'm going to do another thing you might find crazy, but I'm just going to run my empty file. And am I even, why is there no, it's weird. I'm hitting tab and nothing's happening. Oh, that's because I put it in the wrong place. Or did I? This is a mystery. Okay. Identical. Oh, I hadn't saved it. My goodness. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to do this. There. The great thing about being somebody who puts out videos is you get to have all your stupidest moments captured on video for everyone to see. Okay, so now I'm going to add some actual meat to this file. But what am I going to test? I have this like file with a bunch of stuff in it, but I don't know what to test. I have to just kind of pick something. So let's see what this does. I don't even remember what it does. We have this loop of stuff. And sometimes, you know, the structure of the code makes it really hard to write tests for it. So I might have to actually do some refactoring before I'm able to easily write tests for this. So I think I'm going to do that. And since I'm about to embark on some refactoring, I'm going to commit what I just did or stash it. I'll stash it because I don't want that test to come along with my refactoring commit. That'll make my refactoring commit not atomic. Okay, so I think this stuff in the loop is going to be hard to test. So I think what I want to do is I want to move that stuff out of that loop and put it in a method instead. So I'll do this. I'm gonna put this, put that loop down there. And then I'll change this. I don't know what this method does. I'm just gonna call it do stuff. Okay, obviously a terrible name. I'm gonna come back and fix that later. So if I run program.rb, it doesn't work. Okay. Invalid break. Yeah, okay. So that's going to need to be part of the loop, meaning I need offset and total count. Looks like this job might be harder than we thought. All right. So I'm going to abandon that effort and I'm going to do it a different way. See, this is what you get when you don't write tests from the beginning. It's so much harder to write tests later on. Okay. By the way, what this is doing, I now remember, this loop. So these API results are paginated. So each one of these iterations of this loop gets a new page of the results. So maybe I can, well, let's just read this a little bit. So we're making an API request. First, we're just setting up some values here and stuff. Then we make the request. All this is still making the request. If the response isn't 200, then we raise an error. Then we get the JSON body. Okay. I'm glad that I picked this example because this is actually totally not easy. And I'm struggling with this myself. But I'll get past it. So let's figure this out. The problem is, I'll explain a couple of the problems. One thing that makes this hard to test is the fact that I structured all this so that I have this loop containing all this code, that means I can't like get at this code inside the loop easily. And also, you know what? If I were to try to call something from inside the spec, what would I even call? There's like there's no method or anything to call. That's how deep the problems run with this program. Will says maybe extract the code section that parses the response into a method. Maybe, and I thought of that, but the part that parses the response, that behavior is so thin that there's hardly anything to test there. Anyway, this thought has given me a clue. The fact that there's nothing to call means maybe I should put all this inside a big method. I'll just call it run. And here we see kind of the bugginess of tab 9, but maybe that'll go away. Okay, and then we have to call run at the end here. Oops. Okay, I get an error here. I happen to know that's because I haven't loaded my environment variables in this window. I don't even have a good way to load my environment variables for this program. I'm gonna go off screen here for a second. Just because I don't want to record my API keys on video. Okay.
I do have to
Oh,
ask
no.
that, Jason. Why are celebrity deaths your one tab in the bookmark bar?
Ha, ha! Oh, man. That's a great question. I love it when people, on my last video, people noticed my ChatGPT history. And I was I was doing this research on evolutionary biology. And so I had something about like alpha males mating and stuff like that. And like people took it really the wrong way. And now you saw my celebrity deaths tab there. So me and some of my friends have this celebrity death bet. We actually started at the beginning of 2022, where each of us picked 10 celebrities who we predicted would die in the following year. There were 2 or 3 hits. I believe 3, because I got 2 hits myself. I predicted Queen Elizabeth, and I feel like there was one other that I predicted and I got it, but I don't remember what it was. Anyway, that's what that is, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Haven't gotten any hits in 2023. It's really anyway.
We got lots of time. Lots of time. If it were me, man, I'd take that first thing where you're kind of building up the request and I'd extract that into a separate method or function also.
Yeah, and do you really need the loop if you're going to make a bunch of methods? You might be able to structure it, run one, run the next one, the next.
Oh, the thing is, I don't know how many times it's going to be running because I don't know how many pages worth of content there's going to be. Okay, so Mike, you were saying this first chunk with this, maybe some of this stuff here, is that what you were talking about?
I would probably grab those first 5 lines or 6 lines there and just make I mean, I'm in Python these days, it doesn't matter, but I would just pull that into a function called build URI or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. All right, somebody's saying something in the chat. Can't you extract some logic to methods and test the methods and call them in a loop? Yes. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to do it in a meaningful way. And that's the part I'm having trouble with. Okay. I said I didn't want to mix my refactoring with the test stuff. So I'm going to unstage my test. I'm going to commit just my refactoring changes to the program. Because this placement of all that stuff inside this run method, I want to have that as one atomic commit. So I'm going to commit that. Okay. And then I'm going to follow Mike's advice. I'm going to put this in a separate method. For a second, I'm just going to call it request.
Yeah, and I would probably make those constants arguments.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm a slow thinker, so let me catch up here. So we're creating this URI. By the way, most of this program was written by ChatGPT. That's part of the reason there's no tests. And we're setting the query, form IDs. Oh, the offset for the pagination.
The offset would be an attractive argument.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay. And then we're passing in the URI to this request thing and then doing basic auth. Okay. So I hate doing stuff like this, but I'm going to do it as a stopgap measure. I hate doing that kind of stuff because it's like the only reason I have a different method name is for the sake of having something that doesn't conflict. And well, you know what? In this case, who cares if I call this method multiple times? No, actually, because I have that argument there. Yeah, I'm using that a bunch of times and I don't want to call. Yeah. Okay, hang on a second. Sorry, I'm thinking in real time here. I can just call it URI.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Yeah, Ruby's smart enough to know the difference.
In theory.
Okay, so I made a mistake somewhere. Let's see where. I have 30 apparently. Undefined method host name. Oh, I think I forgot to do this. Okay. So that evidently works. But here's the question. Did I cleave this code along lines that make sense? Like, does this get me any closer to my objective of writing a test for this? Like, am I going to write a test for this URI method? I don't know if I would, because this URI method doesn't achieve an end. It's really only a means to an end. I think I want to go at least a little bit further. And have another method that builds the request. But before I do that, I made a little change and I've established that I think that change works. So I'm going to commit. And by the way, I think commit messages only need to be specific with respect to how self-evident the body of the change is. So with these like small refactoring commits, I don't always worry about making the commit message very descriptive because the diff itself is quite self-evident. Okay. So I want to do this. I think I want something like this. Request equals request, and I'm going to have to pass it some sort of arguments. Don't know what yet, but I'll have def request. And then in there,
You're going to need to pass it the URI, right?
yeah. Do I want to deal with the URI here, or do I want to only give the request the offset and let the request method deal with the URI? I'm genuinely unsure.
So the URI is referenced again below, so I think you need it to be its own value.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Okay. Okay. And then I think I do have to return that request like that. Okay. That seems to work. And so we've made this loop a little bit smaller. Do we yet have anything that's meaningful to test? I don't quite think so. But we're getting there. All right. And I actually am going to start to get a little more descriptive with these because maybe there's going to be a bunch of them. Extract request method. Okay. Okay. And what I maybe would like to do, I mean, I'd like to do what I originally wanted to do, which is get like this whole chunk somewhere else. But that's going to take a bit of doing, I think. Okay. Well, what if I do this? What if I have another one called response? Tab 9 still not helping me out. And it leaves behind this residue, which I'm really not a fan of. But that's not tab 9's fault. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, and I'm gonna format these in a way that makes it all visible. Okay. And I suppose I need the URI and the request in this case. Response. Oh, look at this. Good job, tab 9. It seems to be taking a long time. Maybe something's going wrong. It seems like something is going wrong. Oh, no. Huh. Let's do that again and see if it takes a long time twice. No? Okay, that was just a weird one. All right. Okay. So this is progress. Okay, so what did we do here? We extracted the response method. Okay. All right. And then we parse it. And then this is interesting. Total count. Oh, that's because if total count is not anything, wait. Okay, so total count gets incremented apparently. No, I don't understand what this is. That's not an increment. Okay, we're just getting total count. I don't see why this has to be or equals.
I'm guessing your first page is going to give you your total for the entire, your full set of everything.
No, I think it's all going to be the same. Let's check. It seems to be hitting a slow one again, but yeah, it just gives the same number every time. Oh, I see why ChatGPT did that. It's like we assign it once and then we don't need to assign it again.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but like, who cares about that? And do we even need this? No, we don't need that. So that makes the code ever so slightly simpler. Okay, I keep getting that error because it's a solar graph thing I have configured on my other computer that I don't have configured here. Okay, so we're parsing the JSON. Okay, so this might be a good thing to do. What if we do this? Oh, look. I think tab 9 might be getting smarter. Is it
Now,
gonna
like
give
I
a
said, it does get
recommendation
better
there?
over time. It learns what you type in.
Yeah, it's
Supposedly.
interesting. Okay, so that's kind of what I was going for. Is just missing a couple things here. It's just missing these two. Whoops. Okay, and I need the offset, of course. No. Hang on. I'm confusing myself.
Yeah, you need to pass in. Sorry, you need to pass in the URI request and the response, but you don't need to recall those things there. In fact, you just need a response.
Well, here's what I wanted to do. I'm just going to blow this away because, again, I allowed myself to get confused there. I want the response JSON. I was thinking, what if I even do all this? And then I think I want to change this name, but response JSON equals response JSON offset. There. Now the loop doesn't have to care about the details of getting that response. It can just say, give me the response based on the fact that this is the offset. Who knows if that'll actually work? Okay. Okay, so now I feel like we're getting places. Okay, extract response JSON method. Okay, and then we go through, okay, where does recipients come from? Okay, it starts off as an empty array. And then we add to it by cycling through response JSON entries. Okay. I'm trying to think of what I want to do. Let's look at this response JSON method for a second. I feel like we finally maybe have a usable entry point for a test. Okay. But I don't want to be making HTTP requests in my tests. And I want to be sure that I'm not doing that. So I want to install a gem called WebMock. I'm giving tab 9 a chance to do its thing. It's failing miserably. That's okay. Okay. And then I don't know how to use WebMock. I don't remember. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, how do I use WebMock in a pure Ruby application? Require WebMock. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to do that much for starters. And I like to use double quotes. Whoops. Okay. It didn't give me any failures. I kind of expected it to for some reason, but I'm not actually calling anything, so that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, this is where we can get ChatGPT more involved. Write an RSpec test for this Ruby file. All I want to do is call the run method, nothing more. And hopefully that'll just give me kind of the boilerplate so I don't have to give myself the mental burden. It's doing more than I asked it to. Okay, well, AI assisted programming is kind of in its infancy.
At least it's not apologizing.
Okay. I just wanted to see what it would say if I said that. Okay, whoops.
Now it's apologizing.
My goodness, what am I doing here? Okay, describe, run, do. And tab 9 is giving you nothing. All right, so I'm going to run this. Okay. And I'm going to call the run method. Okay, it works. I don't worry about putting like meaningful labels on my tests at the beginning because it's much easier usually to name them at the end. Okay, run is not available. That must be some kind of reserved word. Okay. I know this is super dumb, but I'm going to change it later. Just to get past this, I'm going to say run program. Okay, undefined local variable or method run program. Not surprisingly, because we're not requiring it. Require relative program. Okay. Interesting. Saying it can't find it. I don't understand why. All right. So file's most certainly there. I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to give you an error message and then a test file. Help me troubleshoot the error. Plus, here's the file it's supposed to test. Oh, ha. This is okay. I tricked myself again. It's not because it's not finding the program, it's giving me an error on this line. Whoops. How silly of me. Okay, it can't load pry. Probably because I don't have it in my gem file. Yeah.
I'm curious if ChatGPT would have found that.
I'm really curious too. Let's give it the chance. All right, I'll let that run for a second. Okay, what just happened here? Cannot load such file matrix. Okay, I have no idea what that's about. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. What's ChatGPT saying about this? Yep, it knew. It's smarter than me. Okay. Label document line. Oh, okay. Okay, label document line 1. Program line 4. Yes. Okay. I don't understand why this is happening. But it evidently has something to do with prawn. Yeah, when I took out that prawn stuff, that error went away. Okay. Well, you know what? My whole objective here was to get this WebMock thing working. And it's actually not working because I saw just now that it was able to hit the network. So let's make it so it can't hit the network. But actually, no, I don't want to do that. I want to get rid of this error first. Then I want to see evidence that it's hitting the network. Then I want to make it not hit the network so I can see that my change actually did something. We got a message in the chat. Is program in the same folder? Maybe require relative. No, it's getting program. The program part is fine. It's just this matrix thing. So I'm going to do this.
Wonder if it would help to maybe do bundle exec or spec.
Let's try. I don't have high hopes that would work, but it's worth a shot. No. Give you an error message. Then I'll give you some file contents. Help me interactively diagnose this problem. You can ask me questions or ask me for output or file contents or anything you think would be helpful. Okay, so there's the test failure.
I do want to say, though, here's to 10 years of wondering whether we should run bundle exec or not.
Oh, right. Okay, and here's program.rb. And here's label document.rb. See what it does with that. Oh, starting with Ruby 3.0, the matrix library was gemified. Interesting.
That's pretty good. I just read that on Stack Overflow.
Oh, okay.
So it actually picked that up. Yeah.
And it already picked it up. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Okay.
We gotta
Still
add the
says
gem,
it.
the matrix gem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you have to
Oh,
have
it
it to your
said to do
bundle, I
that?
think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Gem
gem
file.
installment. Yeah,
Yeah, you
okay.
gotta put in your gem file.
Okay. Now I can see. That's interesting. It ran the program twice. Yeah, you know, I shouldn't do this like this. I should have a different entry point that I run on the command line. All right, now it only does that once. Okay, now I want to disable network connections. And I'll have ChatGPT do that. Change this test so it disables network connections. Okay. And what's this? Allow local. Okay. I'm just going to disable it entirely. See what happens now. That's weird. Sure seems to still connect to the internet. Didn't get any kind of error. Okay. Even after adding that, when I run my test, my program can still, oh, hang on a second. I just had a thought. Is it maybe because the order in which I did that? No, it doesn't seem to be. Yeah, weird. My program can still make network requests. Help me figure out why. You can ask me for file contents if it helps. Should be outside. Okay. Should provide the content of your gem file, gemfile.lock. Could you run a test with a known oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll give it my gem file. Gem file, gemfile.lock. And I'll give it spec program. Oh, I messed that up. Spec program spec.rb. And lastly, program.rb. See what it does with that. Being called directly in the program.rb file. I don't see that. Yeah, it's totally not.
Did
Am
you
I
save the
crazy?
file after making that change?
Well, it doesn't matter if I did because I copied pasted
yeah.
it from my editor.
But that could be why ChatGPT is confused.
Well, I'll paste this again.
No, what I'm saying is, have you? Are you sure you saved the program.rb on your computer after you remove the run program?
I am, but ChatGPT doesn't know whether I've saved that file or not.
But that's what. So you're seeing it fail, and then ChatGPT is saying you should be good. So the difference is that
Oh,
the
I see
copied
what
file.
you mean.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I've given up again. I've given up on being polite to ChatGPT at all. And it's funny whenever you take out the politeness, you just seem like a complete asshole. But I'm okay with it. It's just a machine. No, it's wrong again. I did that. Wrong again. Look. Yeah, he's coming for our jobs. Okay. Well, let's do this the old-fashioned way. Okay, well, this certainly doesn't apply because I'm not using VCR.
Thank God.
Okay, it says, I don't understand. Wait, allow net connect. What am I saying? Yep, disable net connect. That's what I thought. Okay, this seems really weird that would be something you have to do, but I don't have a better idea, so let's give it a try. Okay, here's a question. Am I sure that it's hitting the network? Let's do a test.
You should be raising an exception there if it's not a 200.
Yeah. Let's just output that value there. Yeah, it's getting it. Okay. Fascinating.
I'm seeing some stuff for require WebMock / RSpec. Or maybe doing a webmock.enable.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, maybe. Ooh, maybe I need to do this. Okay. Okay, that didn't work. But it's not super shocking. So I'll do it
So I'm
more
seeing,
closely to this.
seeing that are we WebMock disable bang or WebMock enable bang?
Disable.
Because I think what you need is WebMock enable bang and then disable net connect. So you enable WebMock and then you disable Web Connect.
Ah,
That's
that
that's
seems
a
logical.
WebMock issue that I found.
I see. Who was that talking just now?
Oh, that was well.
Will. All right. That's why I didn't recognize your voice because you're relatively new.
I'm
I
new.
thought it was you though.
It came up in a WebMock issue. Someone was confused about the same thing.
Well, it finally works. So I'm happy about that. Okay, so now I can do this. Where do I want to do it? Maybe I want to do it right here. Okay, this formatting's kind of nasty. Whoa. Yikes. Okay, that's reasonably okay. So now what happens when we do this? Okay, undefined method stub request. All right. So I got to do something different there. Okay, for this test, I get undefined method stub request.
It looks like you're going to save yourself a lot of pain if you just remove all the stuff you added and just switch to require webmock / rspec. It
Oh,
does a
okay.
bunch of life cycle stuff for you.
Okay. Require
Webmock / rspec instead of webmock.
RSpec. Okay.
And then you can drop that entire before block 2, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it looks like it mixes in the API. That'll give you your stub request.
Okay. I'm getting a JSON unexpected token. Okay, I wanted to run that without the stub to make sure that it is in fact disabling network requests, which it is. Okay, talk to you later, Helmet. Thanks for coming. See you next time. Yeah, and I'm going to keep going for a few more minutes. If anybody has to drop off, obviously that's totally fine. But I think I'm going to go a little bit long this evening.
Oh, this is great.
Thanks. Okay, this isn't too shocking. At line 44, it's saying unexpected token. But it looks like we're not really returning JSON. We're just returning empty string. So what happens if I return like empty JSON like that? Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Undefined method map for nil class. Okay. So at the risk of getting ahead of myself, I'm gonna go like this. I think I'm gonna go response body equals empty JSON. And then I'm going to say response body dot to JSON dot to string. Let's see if that does what I expect. Okay, I think maybe it actually did. Okay, so I'm going to add here entries and then empty array. Okay, different error now. Line 65. Okay, total count. Total count, we'll say 3. Okay, that was just a syntax error on my part. Okay, and maybe I was supposed to do an integer. Okay. Well, the test runs. And you'd also drop the with headers, clean things up a bit. Okay.
Yeah, like line 13 through 18 are just, they're really redundant. They're very specific and not, I think they could just all go.
Okay, I'm gonna first try this at least. The authorization might actually, well, let's see. Oh yeah.
Well, it's expecting those, but if the request comes in with those headers and you don't stub that request, it will take whatever headers come in.
Wait, say it again, Will.
So the with headers is saying the request is going to come in with those headers, but and so like if the authorization was wrong, it would fail, but you're not really testing that right now. So you could,
Yeah.
you don't care about the headers. It's kind of noise extraneous to what you're actually testing, which is the request body is
Yeah.
parsed. So
So
all that
leave that whole
noise
with
is,
section can go away.
Oh yeah. All right. So wonderful. Yeah, thanks guys for that. And I'm going to, even this can be made like less noisy, I think. Whoops. Okay, so this seems like maybe a good commit point. Done kind of a lot of stuff. But the way I would sum all that up is get test working. Okay, so we have the test like running, but it's not actually testing anything meaningful yet. So let's get that going. But even before that, this URL is like really noisy. So let's do this. Whoops.
you might not even, you can do a regex on the URL. You might not even need most of it.
Oh, okay. Well,
You might need the page number or something, but
I'm gonna do this part. Entries endpoint URL. I might even change that to a constant later, but for now I'm just gonna do that. Okay. And then I can change this to just entries endpoint URL. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I need any of this stuff. Well, the form ID is like meaningful, but I don't know if I actually need that. Okay. I don't know what of this I need and don't need and stuff like that, but that's maybe not something I'm going to even concern myself with right now, because that's kind of live withable. But I am going to do this, I think. Okay. Extract constant, I'll say. Oops. Okay. Now let's actually test something meaningful. So in order to test something meaningful, we'll need a meaningful response. So I'm going to put something in the entries. Oh no. Tab 9, what have you done? Terrible. Hopefully that gets fixed somehow. Anyway, as you can see, each entry has a name and an address. So I'm going to try that. It's an array of hashes. Name, Jason Sweat. And I want to do this a different line here. Address. Does it know my address? That'd be funny. Myers Lake Avenue, Sand Lake, Michigan 49343. Send me a letter or an explosive substance, whatever you want. Okay, let's see what happens now. Syntax error. What did I do? Oh yeah, I left off the closing brace. Okay. No errors. But now we want to test for a meaningful result. So what's supposed to happen? We're supposed to, how about this? How about let's have it return a value. So this stuff can actually, I'm fine with actually just deleting that for now. We can bring it back later. It'll be easy enough. But I'm going to return the recipients. Okay. And I'm actually going to call this method recipients now. I don't love having the same method name as this temp var or this local variable. So maybe we'll do something about that. But just to get this test working, let's see
Mail
what that
recipient?
does. Yeah, but that feels kind of contrived just for the sake of having something different. Okay, expect recipients. How are you going to do tab 9? No, not good yet still. Okay, accept recipients to equal. And sometimes I just do this. That would say ASDF, except I use Dvorak, so it says AOEU. But I just type something I know it's not going to be so that I know what it really is going to be. Oh, and I think that came out wrong because I did this wrong. This should be like that. Oh, and I need to change the syntax. Still nil. Okay. Let's see why. So I'm going to go into here. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a binding.pry right here and see what response JSON is equal to. Okay, that was obscured by some Zoom stuff. All right, so for that first entry, name, address. All right, that looks like it should be right. Response JSON entries.
I think entries is an array. You just have a single structure in your test, maybe.
Okay, entries dot first. Oh, the keys are 1 and 2. I see. Because that's the way WordPress gives it to me. All right. Okay, maybe getting close. Oh, yeah, I am. I'm expecting AOEU, and I'm getting the actual name and address. All right. All right, so I'm going to do this, I think. Jason equals recipients dot, no, recipients dot first. And I'll say expect JSON address to equal and for ease of reading, I'm just going to make my address this much. So we'll see what that gives me. All right. That passes. And then expect all right, NeoVim behaves strangely in some scenarios. Yeah, hey, look, that's exactly what I wanted. And Tab9 gave it to me. That's wonderful. Okay, by the way, you might have heard it's bad to have multiple expectations in one test. I think the slightly more nuanced version of that heuristic is each test should only be about one thing. And so this test has multiple expectations, but it's only about one topic. And so it's not bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I always thought that was a restriction looking for a reason.
Yeah. I feel like maybe it's one of those cases where like people try to come up with a rule that like people not as smart as them can understand or something. But in so doing, they like perverted the rule so that it becomes kind of a nonsensical rule.
There's RSpec
Okay.
matchers that let you check compound things too, where you could basically destructure that into one or restructure that to be one thing anyways.
Oh, so like, wait, can you explain what you mean, Jonathan?
I'm going to make up the code off the top of my head because I don't really use it, but you could do something like expect JSON to match address name. So you could build that all into one big ugly compound matcher, which would give you one expectation with an ugly matcher.
I see.
Therefore, which would let you follow the rules strictly for all that's worth.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, I actually prefer it this way because then but you know, there's two advantages. One is I think it's clear to read, and then the other is that if one of these expectations is violated, then it'll fail on either line 29 or line 30, and it'll be abundantly clear which part of the response was bad instead of just knowing that something in the entire response was bad.
The one benefit to it is if address and name are wrong, it's going to fail on address and stop. With the compound matcher, if you had both things were wrong, it would actually fail on both. Or if you had three, it would say 2 out of the 3 are wrong.
Oh, okay. And is a compound matcher, I've never heard of that before. Is that like an RSpec feature or something like that?
Yeah, it's probably not the right name for it. And I'm flipping through the RSpec book to find what it is. But I think it'd be something like expect JSON to match, and then you do name JSON address, whatever the address was.
Okay. Okay, I asked how do I write this test with a compound matcher instead? We'll see what it gives us.
Now the AI knows where you live.
It sure does. Oh, that's super interesting. Can I just do that? Oops. Wow.
Looks better.
That's extraordinary. Yeah.
So what's neat is if you were to, so if you're to like change JSON or your address, you'll see what it gives you for the error message. That's a little more explicit. And you're also, I believe that with include, it will, if you have additional keys, it will ignore them. And if you do both
Nice.
wrong, it will tell you both parts are wrong.
That's great. Okay. Okay.
You
And
need
then I'm
quotes around the
actually,
name and address
do I need quotes around the name and address?
in your last test there?
Apparently not.
I guess not.
I believe I'm going to change this to recipient stuff first, because now it just doesn't need to be a variable. Great. Thanks for that tip, Jonathan. Okay. So, oh, and I have a trailing space there. So let's get rid of that. Yeah, line 12. I have another trailing space. Okay. How embarrassing. Okay. What did we do? What did we do? Oh yeah, we added a test for add test for consumption of entries. All right, talk to you later, Chuck. Thanks for coming. Okay, so let's review what we did, and then that's the end of today's session. Okay. So this test, what's the point of this test? What does it accomplish? Well, we have this response value that looks like this. It's these entries in 1 and 2. And we're asserting that it gets transformed into this other format. So that is meaningful, in my opinion. And it's starting from this request. And okay, just real quick. I actually want to move this setup to the setup. Where did recipients get set?
That's the function you're calling.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, okay. I was seeing if I needed to set any instance variables there to make it from one place to the other. Looks like maybe not. Okay. Now the setup is a little bit more distinct from the exercise. And I can change this from just it works to it includes the recipient. Consuming recipients. I don't know. That's certainly not the best labeling that's possible, but it's what I can think of right now in my sleepiness. Okay, so again, we added this test that takes this starting format and ends with this format, and it forces us to exercise all this HTTP stuff, because I think if we were to put something in here, like if we were to take something out, would that make it fail? Yeah. Okay, so it's running all that code, so that code's getting exercised, but I didn't want to write tests for these methods directly, because again, these things are just means to an end. They're not ends in themselves. I wanted to test an end, which is getting these recipients from this WordPress response. And of course, I didn't want to involve WordPress. I didn't want to make network requests. So I disallowed network requests, and then I stubbed that part out. You want to stub the part that you're not testing, not the part that you are testing. You want to stub the dependencies of the thing that you are testing. So we did that. What I want to do next, and maybe this will be next session, I want to, first of all, maybe do some more thorough testing on this file, but I want to make it so that, well, I want to change the way it works. Right now, I get all these recipients and then I put it directly into a PDF. What I want to actually make it do is I want to get the recipients, put that into a CSV, and then I want to make that PDF out of that CSV, because sometimes I might want to manually add or delete some rows in that CSV before it goes to the PDF creation step. So that way I'll have more control over the way this label printing process works. Anyway, we will save that part for next time.
That's awesome. I think it's worth calling out too, Jason, that this becoming test driven here actually radically improved the quality of the code already.
Yeah, big time. I think I was thinking about that, because now we have this method that's called recipients. We have these few separate methods that are easier to understand than it all was. And what I want to do is, I don't know what form it'll take, but I want to convert this into some kind of object or composition of objects instead of just having these methods. But again, that'll be a maybe that'll be a good place to pick up for next time. And in fact, the very last thing I want to do before we go, move setup to setup. The very last thing before we go is, I'll say, next session, let's convert this file to one or more objects. And that'll be my reminder, and we can pick up right from there in the next session. All right, anything before we go? Okay, thanks a lot, guys, for coming, and I will see you next time.
Thank you,
Thank
Jason.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Have a good one.